to the Chrissy B Show. Now, we all have our off days when we don't feel so good, but when we start to view ourselves in a negative way constantly, it can lead us to develop low self-esteem. So just to give you a definition of self-esteem, it's a person's overall sense of self-worth or personal value. And if it's at a constant low, it could turn into more serious issues such as depression and other mental health issues. So today I'll be talking to Melanie Robertson on her experience with having low self-esteem, and also Dr. Nihara Krause is back and she'll be here to explain what can cause it and give us a general overview. Plus, at the end of the show, I'll be giving you 5 top tips to raise your self-esteem. But first, we have the news with the lovely Helena Shard. Hello, Helena. So nice to see you.
Chrissy, good to see you as well.
So a nice subject today.
Yes, it is. It sort of follows on in a way, you know, at the other show, Bipolar, the other day.
Yeah.
It's sort of intertwined. I found it really, really interesting. I'm tongue-tied today. And I was looking into different celebrities, etc. And one of the things, there was one quite sad story recently. Do you remember Little Chris?
No.
And he came to fame in Rock School, which was a Channel 4 programme when he was 15. But he recently, in fact last month, took his life, which is really sad.
Did he?
But he suffered from depression and low self-esteem, and it came about, he obviously shot to fame when he was 15 and struggled over the years to get back on that platform that he was on. And he used to talk about depression and talk about trying to help people, and then sort of towards the end of his days he was tweeting that he just wanted to, you know, bin his career and he wasn't doing well enough. And then boom, just really, really sad. So it just goes to show where low self-esteem can take you.
It's quite, with I suppose celebrities, and you hear about a lot of footballers being depressed and stuff after they kind of shot to fame and then they didn't have that anymore. It's like when you kind of pin your value on your work, it's a really dangerous thing to do, because when you don't have that job anymore, when you get older and maybe you can't, for example, the footballers or sports people, they injure themselves.
They can't continue.
They can't do it anymore. And it's like their life is over.
Yeah,
so it's
but I do think as well, from an early age, I mean, he was 15, and you know, if you shoot to fame at that age and then you lose it, you haven't got the coping skills.
You don't have that foundation. Or that.
And really, you know, these reality TV programs have a lot to, you know, the Simon Cowells of the world, etc. They need to have mentors to carry them and teach them and train them how to be, because otherwise it's not a good thing. So yeah, very sad.
It's really sad.
Yeah, and also another unfortunately sad situation. Peach's Geldof, it's a year since she obviously committed suicide. Well, it's not committed suicide because it was a drug overdose, wasn't it? But again, low self-esteem, sometimes people are driven towards drink and drugs, and it can obviously lead down a slippery slope. So shame. I think her sister Fifi left a message on Facebook saying miss you and everything.
Has it been a year already?
It's been a year, can you believe it? I know, that's what I thought.
Time flies.
Amazing, it does, completely. So, also just looking at you know, through history, etc. And King George VI, who obviously became king by default in a way, because Edward abdicated. He was obviously the brother of Edward, but they were so different. And poor George VI was the sort of goofy, stutter. He didn't compare to his brother, who was the blue-eyed sort of hunky angel, and they were always fighting. And then he became king, which was awful because he didn't have very good self-esteem, and eventually, just through the stress of it all, it was a huge stress, it killed him early. But that whole, he didn't feel worthy. He eventually died of lung cancer, but he also had terrible hernias and everything from stress, because he couldn't public speak very well, and of course he was king with this terrible stutter, and so he's
not easy, is it? Gosh.
Not easy, and sorry case, but he's.
I suppose if you already feel insecure, you don't feel up for something anyway, like a certain position, a job, and then being in front of everyone, it must be terrifying.
Terrifying, and also knowing that you've got this blue-eyed brother who the whole world loved him and was looking forward to him being king, and it was like, oh, we've got George, so.
And that's another thing with self-esteem, you know, comparing yourself to other people.
Absolutely, sibling rivalry and everything.
It's a deep subject,
It is really deep, really deep. Princess Diana, again, classic. Her parents split up when she was 6, so her low self-esteem started from then. Obviously, she entered a relationship with Prince Charles, which didn't go very well at all, and she did things outwardly threw herself down the stairs, she self-harmed, bulimic, all the classic situations, cried for help. But she had so much public love, yet she didn't love herself and didn't feel worthy.
That's interesting, that, isn't it? Because even though everyone might love you, but if you don't love yourself,
exactly. If
you don't know your value, then
felt very alone, very, very alone, which is very sad. Kate Beckinsale as well. Again, it's quite interesting because when you read through these cases, you see that they've lost parents when they've been quite young. Kate Beckinsale, who's obviously a very attractive, famous actress, who felt like an ugly duckling, I think, only until a few years ago. But she lost her father when she was 5.
Yeah.
Do you remember him in Porridge at all? My mum absolutely loved him. That's why I know him. Richard Beckinsale, his name was. And she developed anorexia. She went down to 5 stone and nearly died. And you know, all her life has really struggled. And you wouldn't believe it. But she's got a daughter now called Lily, who's not been affected at all by any of it. One of her big things in life was she was going to bring her up to be, you know, strong and have a lot of self-worth. And she's done it, despite the fact that she's in fact divorced from her previous husband and is with someone else now. Lily's almost got like two father figures, and she's really strong and doesn't suffer as Kate did. Good, which is quite interesting to do that, because I think you want the best, don't you, for your children?
Of course,
and if you know that you're suffering from something, you want to try and turn that around.
I think a lot of people do tend to try and change their lives around once they have children, because they don't want. A few guests have mentioned that actually.
Definitely.
That they don't want to pass that on. Remember when we had the phobias show? Do you remember the guest was saying that she didn't want her son to realise that she had this phobia of tall buildings, because she didn't want him to think, you know, badly of her or develop anything himself. But I think it's important for people to do that even before they have kids, for themselves to look. Because if they can do it with kids when they have kids, why not before? I mean, it's just that they think that, you know, that's the only way they're going to maybe have that inner strength to do it. But I believe everyone has their own inner strength, that they can fight things and they can overcome things.
And it's a matter of, you know, I suppose it's learning to love yourself, isn't it? And learning to accept who you are. And I mean, I don't know the subject completely, but I just, having researched it. But Nicole Scherzinger, again, another young lady, so successful.
Low self-esteem, really?
Very low self-esteem.
What, in the past or now?
Past and now. She always felt fat, ugly, she didn't fit in, felt very alone. She used to go out on stage with her group, and then she was bulimic, but she just felt incredibly alone and very low. But she's now slightly older, and she's now able to talk about it and sort of share her demons and help other people. But you wouldn't think it of her at all.
She seems, okay, I was going to use the word confident, and actually confidence and self-esteem are linked, but they are different things.
They are different things.
Which I'll leave that to our expert to explain, because I will probably mess it up. And I don't know if I fully understand it yet, if I need to get my head around it. But our expert's going to talk about
that. She's absolutely miserable inside, and you'd never think it. George Clooney, now I don't think really...
Hang on, you talked about him the other day, didn't you? With was it phobias?
George Clooney.
Or bipolar? He's bipolar, is he?
Not George Clooney, I don't think.
Oh, I thought you mentioned him the other day about something.
No? Probably did. I can't remember what it is now. No, but he always doubted his looks. And it took him until in his 30s to realise that he was this supposed sex god. I mean, he's very attractive, but he just couldn't believe it. Hasn't really been able to come to terms with it. I don't think he truly had low self-esteem. Yeah, is my feeling. But there you go.
Just saying it, just to add
a bit of glamour. Jennifer Lopez.
No.
Again, you know, so successful, but she's brought out a book called True Love. Yeah. And she's put down her bad relationships with men to the fact that she's got low self-esteem. Still. And she talks about, she still has it, but she's working through it. And she thinks it's to do with the fact that she was a middle child, so to always crave love, and to do that she tried to perfect herself and excel and do the best she could. And as a result, anybody that gave her a bit of love, she'd jump on it. So she's been married a few times now, and it went wrong. Ben Affleck, Mark Anthony, I don't know who she's with. I think she may be on her own now. And I think sometimes...
she got married again.
Or did she?
Anyone know?
Anyone know? Any votes?
We should know this.
Mark Anthony was the last
the last one, exactly. And
so we're getting our guests to help us out here.
Sometimes, you know, best to, you know, to get out of a relationship that's wrong, spend time on your own and decide.
Yeah, you need to build up your self-worth first, don't you? Because then you do end up making mistakes. Because you will just accept any old person that comes along, and maybe it's an abusive relationship, or it's something that's not good for you, but because you think it might make me feel, I won't get anyone better because I'm like this, I'm like that, and that's where a lot of women and men actually get into trouble. There's
always someone special out there. Don't tell me I'm finishing.
You are finishing.
David Bowie is one which I really found very strange. So in the 70s, 80s, he felt really low, didn't feel worthy at all, and used to spend his time just working non-stop, writing, and so I found that an odd one. Yeah. So there's lots.
There are lots.
So just because you're a celebrity,
you can still go through issues, definitely. Helena, thank you so much. And we'll see you again next time with some more news. Thank you. All right, so don't go away, because we'll be back after the break with Melanie Robertson to discuss how she's had to work on her own self-esteem after being constantly bullied at school. And later on, we're also going to be joined by Dr. Nihara Krause.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's topic is raising your self-esteem. So we'll be giving you tips on that later on. Now, before we go to my first guest, Melanie Robertson, let's take a look at this video to explain more.
Consequences of low self-esteem. We can all be self-critical at times, but having low self-esteem can have some serious consequences if not addressed in the appropriate manner. Low self-esteem can create anxiety, stress, loneliness, and an increased likelihood of depression. This can lead to a person's self-esteem becoming worse, thus creating a dangerous cycle which is difficult to break. Low self-esteem can cause problems with friendships and romantic relationships. It can also stop us from fulfilling our potential. For example, people with low self-esteem are less likely to go for a promotion at work, even if they are more than capable of doing the job well, and so impairs their academic and job performance. Discouragement is a common emotion amongst those with low self-esteem. They have unusually high expectations of others and unreasonably high goals for themselves. Striving for unreachable goals is a recipe for feeling like one is failing. Others with low self-esteem are too discouraged and fearful to try something new. Fear and anxiety are mental health issues that can come from having low self-esteem. If someone has a negative view of themselves, they can go through life with the fear that if they do something new, then everyone else will see their inadequacy. People with low self-esteem may start to shut down emotionally as a way of coping with all the negative thoughts they have about themselves on a daily basis. People with low self-esteem often have mixed emotions, which fluctuate throughout the day. They can go from feeling competent to despondent and back again. This internal emotional war can be physically draining, leading to fatigue, which is also a symptom of depression. All of these things reinforce a person with low self-esteem's already negative self-image, which can take a person into a downward spiral of lower and lower self-esteem, leading to counterproductive or even self-destructive behaviour.
All right, so now it's time to meet my guest, Melanie Robertson. Hello, Melanie.
Hello.
How are you, my love?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm good, thank you. So
Good.
Thanks so much for coming on, because I know this is the first time that you're on TV speaking
Yes.
about this issue that you've had in the past and things that you're struggling through now. But what's made you be so brave today to come on and talk about this?
Basically, I thought it would do me some good to come out of my comfort zone and maybe a little bit of healing in there as well, to talk about past stuff and, you know, to feel that I'm freer from that today.
Brilliant.
You know, and to see how far I've moved on.
Yeah, that's great, because it's not an easy thing to come on TV and talk about stuff, but the fact that you've done it shows that you are being very brave and also pushing yourself, like you said, coming out of your comfort zone, which is brilliant. So let's let's also help the viewers now that are watching, that maybe are going through low self-esteem or depression and things like that. So your issues started at quite a young age, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, as a child, I was quite an anxious child. I was quite frightened. I couldn't really tell you why, but you know, I always kind of felt scared and a bit different to other children, and I don't know why. You know, there was you know, some really good stuff in my childhood. You know, I had 2 sisters and a brother, and you know, we did have a great upbringing. There wasn't anything materially that I didn't have, you know, but inside, you know, as I said, I was anxious and I was frightened, and when I was about 14, I went to a new school, and I ended up being quite badly bullied by like a big gang of girls.
Oh gosh.
And because I was insecure and sensitive already, I just didn't really know how to cope with what was going on. And
that's the first time you'd ever experienced anything like that, or people being negative towards
I mean,
you?
I can remember going to the doctors with because I felt depressed because of what was happening, and I pushed a lot of those emotions down. You know, I didn't really deal with them. I kind of pretended what was going on wasn't happening to me, and I was quite embarrassed and ashamed. There was definitely some shame there attached to what was going on.
Why had they picked on you, do you know? Like, although bullies actually don't need any particular reason.
No, I mean, because I came from quite an affluent background, and I spoke quite well, and some of these girls had come round to my house, and I don't know, you know, really.
Oh, so you'd actually invited them?
Yeah, because I was new, I didn't really know who to kind of, who the
So you were trying to be nice and make friends.
Yeah, I was trying to get in with the kind of in crowd, but, you know, it kind of turned on me, and you know, it was awful. It was absolutely hideous, to be honest. You know, it wasn't just you know, the emotional and the mental side of bullying. It was really physical as well. I
really?
Was punched in the face in the middle of, a girl ran in and punched me in the face in the middle of a class. I was pushed downstairs. I was called fat and just various names on a regular basis, and because of that, I just kind of, after a while, I started to believe that it was true. I didn't really, you know, I just kind of thought, well, I soaked it all up. I was like a sponge. I just soaked
that kind of made you think that was who you were.
And I just did not have, although I worked really hard in my GCSEs and I got good grades, for my A-levels I went to a different school.
Did the bullying carry on?
No, it didn't carry on at all. Because
but it was there in your head though,
wasn't
it?
It was, but I went there with the mindset that I just wanted to be popular and liked, and I had a lot of friends in this new school, but I was like the class clown. I put on a mask and I tried to make everybody laugh, and I was like the joker. And
Melanie, how did this affect your relationships?
Well, I was a complete people pleaser, to be honest. I was frightened to say no to people.
We were trying to gain acceptance in a sense. Yeah.
And, you know, at that point, I just wanted to be liked and accepted, because I felt in the previous school that I wasn't accepted at all. And when I went to this new school, I was liked, but I didn't have that belief in myself. I kind of felt there was something wrong with me and that I just wasn't good enough.
What about romantic relationship?
I did have a couple of boyfriends at that age, and I think a lot of my insecurities was centred around my looks more than anything, because I was told I was fat and ugly and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have any belief, you know, in myself and how I looked. And
which you're gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you. But even when somebody would tell me I wouldn't believe it, because I'd still see myself as this. And I was a bit chubby when I was about 15, and I think that's why they kind of picked on my size, because you know, I wasn't slim, and they kind of picked up on that. That I was a little bit bigger, and so that was sort of the main focus. But it wasn't a nice time, you know, and I didn't push myself, like it was said on that video about low self-worth can hold you back academically and for jobs and stuff like that. I didn't try for things because I was frightened of failing, and then thinking, see, there you go, you're no good, you know, they were right type thing.
It kind of just reinforced what you were thinking about in your own mind.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, because you had a couple of bad relationships as well, didn't you?
I did, kind of in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I got involved with a man who was like physically abusive towards me and who hit me and stuff like that. And I was kind of like on and off with this man for about 4 years because I just couldn't kind of break free from it. It was, you know...
What was going on in your head at the time when these things were... Was it like, if I leave him, maybe I won't get anyone else? Or what was happening there?
Maybe something along those lines, but I just, it's like you said before, I just kind of accepted it and didn't really think anything more of myself. And so I just kept on going back. But then on the surface, you know, we say about famous people and their insecurities. Yeah. I was always like really loud and I would appear to be quite confident. Yeah. But which underneath, I was very scared, you know, and quite frightened.
Yeah.
So, I kept on going back in this relationship, and despite the fact it was no good for me, and I can see that now.
Did you ever talk to anyone about your issues back then?
Not really, to be honest.
Afraid to?
To friends, maybe, you know, a little bit about what was going on, but I think I was quite ashamed as well to admit that, you know...
So you just get sort of caught up in this cycle of emotions, don't you? And it's like, it's really hard when you're in that state and in that situation to see a way out of what was going on. But you did find a way out.
Yeah,
and after the break, actually, we're going to be joined by our expert, Dr. Nihara Krause, and she's going to be obviously commenting on your story and giving some advice as well. You're doing great, my darling, and you're going to stay with us, okay? Until after this break.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Hello and welcome back to today's show. And if you've just joined us, we are speaking about self-esteem, and later I'll be giving you some tips on how to raise your self-esteem. So now we're joined by Dr. Nihara Krause to give her expert opinion on today's topic. Hello Nihara, how are you?
Hello there, very well, thank you.
It's great to have you on again. I always love having you on because I learn so much every time you're here.
That's good, thank you.
So obviously we've been listening to Melanie's story, and like, just for the sake of the viewers, Melanie was bullied quite severely when she was younger, and then she developed low self-esteem, and as a result ended up in relationships that were bad for her because she didn't value herself. So from what she said so far, what can you take from that, and what are your comments, Nihara?
Well, I think that what Melanie's perhaps outlining are the kind of bases of why people develop low self-esteem. And it's often to do with, because we're not born with low self-esteem, we develop it based on experiences we have. So our history, negative feedback, negative messages that we have would all lead to us not feeling particularly positive about ourselves.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what kind of, because sometimes different people take things differently. So for example, maybe one person will hear something negative and another person will hear the same thing, but yet one will kind of let it bounce off them kind of thing, and the other one would really take it to heart. What's the difference there, do you think?
Well, each of us have our own way of interpreting information, and if we have been through particularly bad experiences, then those experiences will bring a mindset that makes us look at things in a particular way, and then we'll filter things that we hear using our own particular mindset.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So each person, it depends on the person then. Yeah. So please tell us the difference between confidence and self-esteem.
Okay.
Are they linked?
They are indeed. So as you said at the introduction, you know, what self-esteem is kind of quite difficult to explain. So the kind of very broad sense is it's about how you like yourself, yourself and how happy you are with yourself. But it's kind of comprised of lots of little facets, and those facets are partly how we think about ourselves. So that's called sort of our self-concept. So how do we define ourselves? How do we look at our image? So those are the ways we think about ourselves. It's also comprised of behaviors, and that's where confidence comes in. So it's the ability, and I think Melanie put it really well, that she came on the show today because it was taking her out of her comfort zone. And that really is what confidence is all about. Confidence is about kind of taking on challenges, putting ourselves out of our comfort zone.
Even if you don't feel
if you don't feel it, and then learning from that, you know, a kind of a belief that you can do it, and that you can do it effectively, and that you can be a person in your own right. So confidence will enable you to build on positive self-esteem. And I think the you know, the comments that were being made, Helena, for example, described a number of celebrities who don't in any shape or form look like they lack confidence. But of course we can have fake confidence. We can pretend to be confident without feeling confident. So true self-esteem is when we actually can believe what we do. And the other bit of self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. So our self-worth, our self-respect, and most importantly, and something that's really hard for us, is self-acceptance. Can we accept ourselves for the people that we are? Sounds easy, but really hard to do.
Now, Melanie also, she hasn't gone into this part yet, but you also became an alcoholic, didn't you? So how did that sort of happen and develop?
Basically, when I first started to drink, it gave me a lot more confidence. You know,
fake confidence.
It gave me a lot more confidence. It kind of took away my insecurities and my fear. And you know, I found it really fun in the beginning, but I used it as a crutch to cope with, you know, my insecurities, and it developed into a problem for me. But, you know, well, to be honest with you, I had to hit rock bottom with my drinking, you know, because it took me to some quite dark places in the end, you know, so I knew that...
It's like you became dependent on it because you felt good temporarily when you were drinking, and you didn't want to feel bad about yourself, so then you'd carry on drinking. That's quite common, isn't it, Nihara?
Yes.
With the alcohol abuse. Now, but you're a recovering alcoholic today, so you still go to your meetings and stuff.
I regularly go to meetings, and I have like a mentor who helps me, and I speak to lots of other people. I've got, you know, a really great support network today. You know, I've come through that stage of bad relationships and treating myself badly, because it was about kind of self-destructing, you know, and the alcohol was about that, the relationships, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, today I have got a happy life, and for me, I think a lot of it is about acceptance. It's about accepting myself the way that I am, you know, and doing esteemable things, doing good things, you know, being there for other people, thinking of others before myself, you know. And I've got a beautiful family. I've got 3 lovely children, a lovely husband, and you know,
deserve that.
a
really
nice
do.
life.
Really
and but it hasn't been easy, you know. I have had to face up to my demons, and you know, to accept that I can't live like that anymore. You know, it's not the life for me, and you know, I want to have a good life, and you know, to enjoy my life.
Of course, definitely. I mean, that's what everyone wants, isn't it? And it's just sad that some people feel that they can't talk about it. And obviously that's, you know, I keep saying on the show, that's the reason why we do programs like this, to bring on people like you, Melanie, that are brave to talk about the issues that they've been through, and show people that there is life after having so many issues, and you know, there's always help out there for everyone. Now, one thing I just wanted to ask Nihara before we go, do you think, obviously some people develop low self-esteem because of experiences and bad stuff that they've been through, but what about the media, would you say? Is that like a culprit maybe in the way people feel about themselves?
Yes, well, the way that we learn about ourselves is in part through comparison, and you know, the messages that the media promote can often have, you know, they can raise the bar very high, and it's an interesting fact, Chrissy, which is that women and girls have 40% more low self-esteem issues than men do.
40% more.
40% more.
Do you think that's because men don't talk about it? Maybe,
It might be. It might be. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that men will experience, obviously, inevitably, issues to do with low self-esteem. But there might also be something about the message that is promoted in terms of the standards that women may feel. You know, and it's your own personal interpretation, of course, but that women may feel they have to achieve. You know, so they've got to be beautiful, they've got to kind of be thin, they've got to have this ideal model, they've got to be perfect housewives, they've got to be very good at work. I think it's demanding, it's difficult,
definitely.
I think.
Now, apart from counselling, is there any other sort of good avenue for a person with low self-esteem to take that they can?
Yeah, there's lots and lots of things, ranging from quite simple things to, you know, the kind of more standard ways of following through with some sort of treatment plan. So some of the simple things are, first of all, if you think very negatively about yourself, now catch those thoughts, and rather than automatically running with them, you know, just question yourself, where do those negative beliefs come from? If they, for example, come from having been bullied, are you then carrying those bullying beliefs with you? Are they the kind of voices of things that don't belong to you? So question the evidence. If there's evidence to believe that what you think is true, then you may need to work on it. But if there isn't evidence, then start to think more positively about how you feel about yourself. Right. Do things that are positive. So, you know, we were talking about putting yourself out of your comfort zone, but simple things like if you constantly apologize, even when it isn't your fault, stop saying sorry. You know, that's a way of putting yourself down.
Interesting.
You know, learn to say no. If you're constantly deflecting compliments, accept them, you know, because they are part of a good message about yourself.
No, just something you mentioned there, and I remember you saying it as well about people pleasing.
Yes.
That does happen, doesn't it, when you feel you need people's acceptance. So you will say yes to everything. Oh, can you help me with this? Can you do that for me? And you will say yes because you want that acceptance from people, but then you end up with other issues now. You're stressed out. You have too much to do, too much on your plate, and that could also lead to other issues. So it's a spiral of things. It is a huge topic, isn't it?
It is a huge topic. And, you know, we heard about all the sort of famous people, as well as Melanie's story about how low self-esteem can lead to anxiety issues, depression, but also eating disorders.
Yeah, which we've covered on this show. By the way, if you would like to watch that show, it was a really good program. Actually, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Chrissy B Show, and you can find topics there and also the topics from the past. Now, Melanie, how do you feel about having come on the show today and spoken? How are you feeling about yourself?
I feel really good.
Good on you, girl. You did so well. I'm really proud of you. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we do have to go now. See, it was all okay. She was a little bit nervous before, but yeah, she did so well. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Nihara, it's a pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so do stay tuned, because after the break, I'll be giving you my own tips on how to raise your self-esteem.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back, everyone. So today we've been speaking all about raising your self-esteem. So I'm going to go now through 5 points for you guys to be able to appreciate and feel good about yourselves. Are you ready? Okay, so the first one is to identify the lies. So if you have those kind of thoughts that come to you and say, I'm so rubbish, I'm a waste of space, there's nothing at all I'm good at, and thoughts like that, these are absolute lies. I'm here to tell you they are definitely lies. Don't listen to them. Yes, it's true, from time to time we may not be great at something, or we may even make a fool of ourselves sometimes with something, but it's not true that you're bad at absolutely everything or that you're a waste of space. That's just not true. So what could help you is to maybe list your strengths and weaknesses on a piece of paper. And when it comes to your strengths, don't just kind of fluff over stuff and say, oh, this thing is too small to write down. Write it down anyway. And if you really can't think of any strengths at all, ask those that you know. Maybe they've given you compliments about things. Maybe they've said some nice things about you. Write those things down as well, even if you necessarily don't think it's that big a deal. Write them down, because that is a strength. So then you'll be able to see that there are things that you're good at, and there are things that, you know, even the things that you're not great at, you can work on those later on. So don't worry about that for now. Just concentrate on what you do have and work on that. The second point is stop trying to be perfect, because it's never going to happen, trust me. So you're never going to have the perfect body, you're never going to have the perfect relationship or the perfect family or the perfect career. You're not going to have the perfect anything. And sometimes, as we spoke earlier, this has a lot to do with the media, but what you see in films and on TV is not real. So don't look at that and compare your life and say, oh, you know, my life is rubbish or I'm rubbish because of what I see there. It's not real. What helps me, what I do, I have a notebook, and I've got a nice notebook for myself, and I keep a list of all my accomplishments. So as soon as I accomplish something, even if it's something small, like, for example, one of my accomplishments, something very small, I switched from cow's milk to goat's milk because it's healthier. So now I'm just drinking goat's milk, and it's a small thing. I obviously talk about the other, I write down the other stuff as well, the bigger things, but it's something of my achievements that I managed to do. So it could be anything from learning a new recipe to achieving a goal at work. So don't devalue your accomplishments and say they're just small and silly things, because they're not. Acknowledge them, and as you go along, you go for bigger things step by step. And remember, you also learn from your mistakes. So if you try new things and you mess up, you're going to learn from that. Number 3 is to go on a treasure hunt. So don't just stop at knowing, don't just stop at knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, but open yourself up to new opportunities as well. So it could be like a new friendship, it could be a new experience, something that you've never done. And I'll give you another example of mine. As you know, on this show, I from time to time do different challenges. The section's called Challenge Chrissy. And there was a challenge that I did once, and I was really, really scared of going. And I almost cancelled the day before. I was seriously thinking about cancelling and not going along because I was frightened. But then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go. And surprisingly, I actually did really well, and I was not expecting to be good at this particular thing, but afterwards I did feel really good about myself that I tried it. I'd got past that fear, and then I did something new. So shall we take a look at what it was? Let's take a look at this. Hi everyone, I'm here today with Graham from Right Gear Motorcycle Training, and this is my next challenge to ride a motorbike. So I've been a bit nervous about this, but I think I'm going to do all right. What do you reckon, Graham?
I think you'll be absolutely fine.
Now, you've been actually training for how long?
Nearly 18 years.
Okay, so I think I'm in safe hands. And what can we expect from today?
Starts with some theory to start with. Talk about clothing and safety element. We then go out to the bike and give you a talk around the bike so you're familiar with how the bike works. And then gradually we get you riding. So pulling away, stopping, going slightly faster, and then work on the control. A few breaks in between, take it easy. Stop for lunch, have some more theory, and then hopefully out on road.
Wow, out on the road. Okay, so let's get going.
Okay, there you go. Try this one on. There you go. Probably feel quite heavy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Long enough in the arm, that fits you well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at where you want to go, that's it. That's good. You've got a nice distance from the bike, leant over. Yeah, that's good. You're confident with that bike already. Would you like to take a seat? Hold the front brake in, hold the front brake, and put your leg through there. You can do it the hard way and put it over the back if you like, or you can take a seat that way. There you go. There you go. So, check both mirrors, both shoulders, and away you go. She's very good, you know. She's natural at it. It's really good. You're whizzing, man. That's good. Feel comfortable with the bike? Yeah? Good. Couple more.
Alrighty, so we're just having a break and having a cuppa. I'm actually really enjoying it. And Graham, I have to confess something to you. I almost cancelled because I was so scared to come today.
You wouldn't be alone. I think lots of people phone up and have a little chat, ask about directions, and you can tell they're just sanding you out about cancelling. So it happens a lot. People don't, thankfully not many people do cancel. And once they get here, you tend to enjoy yourself. So
now we're going to do a couple more exercises and then out on the open road.
And then after a quick chat, out on road. But yeah,
so I'm looking forward to it.
You're definitely ready. It'll be good.
Let's go.
That's good. So away we go. Bit quicker, a little bit quicker. That's it, and then round we go, round we go, round we go. Nice and gentle, round we go. Oh, wrong side of the road, wrong side of the road. I thought you said you drove a car. It's easier, isn't it? Cut the corner. Move left a bit, move left. You don't know you're looking to the right. Come on. There you go, and indicator off. Steady, steady on the power. So into the right lane, you're on the white line in the middle. Oops, oops. Own lane, Chrissy, own lane. Right, at that roundabout, it was 2 lanes, yeah? And you were in the middle of the 2. You weren't in the left or the right, yeah? Should have been a bit more central in the right lane, but that was okay, it's the only one. Let's go then, let's go a bit quicker. Slow down a bit, slow down, turn it left, 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 left. You little Speedy Gonzales.
That was really cool. Okay, it was more of a moped than a motorcycle, but anyway, I got the certificate. So there you go. You'll never know what you could be really good at if you don't actually go exploring. So take some risks and you may be pleasantly surprised. So let's just quickly go for the last 2 points. Don't compare yourself to you. So self-esteem doesn't work if you're stuck in the past. So there may be things that you were really good at in the past, but you're different now. People and skills change over time. So if you're comparing yourself to you all the time before, and you know you've changed since then, you may actually be affecting your self-esteem. So this could maybe be for especially the females who kind of look at how they used to look before when they were a lot younger, and then they say, oh, now I've got wrinkles and I've got this. Don't compare yourself. You're a different person now. Just move on and love yourself for who you are now. And number 5, you know, if you're not supposed to compare yourself to yourself, you definitely shouldn't compare yourself to other people. Now this is so easy for us to do. And, you know, things like this come up nowadays with social media. Oh, you know, that person's got so many Facebook likes and I don't have many, and that person's taller than me. And the thing is, you don't know what these people are going through that you're comparing yourself to. So they might look like they have the perfect life, but maybe they're going through stuff that you're not going through. So everyone, you know, everyone's an individual, so definitely don't compare yourself to anyone. So that's it for today's show, guys. I hope it's helped you. And remember, it's really good to value yourself. You have a lot of beautiful qualities about yourself, so invest in those, and I'm sure this will raise your self-esteem. But if you still feel low, if you still feel like you can't handle things on your own, we do have, you know, professionals that you can go to. We've got some listed on our website, which is chrissybshow.tv. And if you'd like to speak to me personally, you can also send a form through that same website, and also through my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye for now.